We continue with our series on the geopolitics of countries to dive into the intricacies of the world's most populous country, India. A nation poised to be one of the three global superpowers of the 21st century, alongside the United States and China. India is growing at a spectacular rate and is striving to board the train of development. It is a nation so vast and populous that it practically forms a world of its own, and is much more diverse and complex than it appears. Today, we are going to answer some of the following questions. What is India's main ambition? Who are its allies and enemies? What challenges must this enormous country, located to the south of the Himalayas? Hello to all the community of Finance for All, welcome to another video. Let's start with the basics. As we mentioned, in 2023, India became the most populous country in the world, surpassing China for the first time. Additionally, it is the seventh largest country on the planet, covering an area of over 3 million square kilometers. We are talking about what we could call the other Asian giant and one of the major geopolitical players of our era. Of course, this is not achieved by population size alone, but also thanks to India's massive mineral resources and, to a lesser extent, its energy resources. Thanks to its territorial variety, India has energy resources that include oil and gas, although its production is modest and far from enough to meet the needs of over 1 billion people. As a result, India has no choice but to import large quantities of gas and oil from places like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Russia, or even the United States. However, the majority of India's energy, more than 50%, comes from an old acquaintance, coal. India has the third largest coal reserves in the world, which it uses to supply electricity to its population through thermal power plants. This explains why 21 of the 30 most polluted cities in the world, according to IQ Air, are in India. Despite this, India has great potential in solar and wind energy, and the country seems to be starting to get serious about renewables, quite literally. Over the last decade, India has invested a huge amount of capital to improve its solar energy production, and today, it ranks among the top 5 solar energy producers in the world. On the other hand, India is also one of the largest producers of iron globally, supporting the steel industries of the countries to which it exports, with states like Odisha, Karnataka, and Goa playing a key role. Equally important are its reserves of bauxite, used in aluminum production, manganese, for steelmaking, and mica, a critical mineral for the electronics industry due to its insulating properties. India's growing global prominence has not gone unnoticed by other countries. For this reason, India is part of several alliances and supranational organizations. Perhaps the most familiar to us is India's membership in BRICS, which, as you know, is a platform for economic cooperation that includes such diverse countries as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Recently, BRICS has added other regional powers to its ranks, like Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Egypt. BRICS acts as a counterbalance to the G7, though these countries rarely reach consensus, making the alliance more symbolic than anything else. On the other hand, due to its historical ties with the British Empire, India is also part of the Commonwealth, which brings it closer to the Western Bloc. The same can be said of its membership in the Quad Forum, alongside Australia, the United States, and Japan, which was formed to counter China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. India is also part of SARC, which connects the countries of South Asia, though this group holds little international significance. But if that weren't enough, India is also a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which includes China, Russia, and other Central Asian countries. Additionally, it belongs to the non-aligned movement. All of this makes it difficult to place India within a specific geopolitical bloc. One could say that, with its own unique international goals, India forms its own geopolitical bloc. However, the growth of one of its major rivals, China, has led India to gradually move closer to the United States in recent years, initiating a fruitful collaboration in technology and defense. The Western Bloc has begun to see India as a strategic partner in Asia, capable of balancing the power dynamics with China. India's relations with the other Asian giant are complex, to say the least. There are several reasons for this. First, the border disputes over the regions of Aksai Chin and southern Tibet, which are among the most conflict-ridden areas in the world. In fact, we have a video on our channel explaining this whole mess in detail. Another reason is the geopolitical competition to gain influence among the countries of the Indian Ocean and South Asia. Then, there is China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which has left India isolated. In recent years, China has focused on building infrastructure in India's neighboring countries, gradually encircling India strategically. Lastly, China's alliance with India's archenemy, Pakistan, plays a role. China supports Pakistan in both the border disputes and infrastructure logistics. However, nothing or no one surpasses Pakistan as India's greatest enemy. These two countries, divided by religious differences, have hated each other since the partition after the British Empire's independence. The main conflict revolves around the disputed territory of Kashmir, which is perhaps the world's biggest powder keg today. This is truly concerning on an international level because we are talking about two nuclear-armed nations. In fact, we have another video on our channel detailing the history of this conflict. Besides these two enormous challenges, India also has smaller neighbors with whom it has had some complications. Despite deep cultural ties and a close relationship, even Nepal and India have had their fair share of disagreements. In Nepal, nationalist sentiments often manifest as resistance to Indian influence. India has used its position of power to exert control over Nepali politics, while many Nepali politicians have expressed their rejection of India in various ways. An example of this was the publication of a map in 2020 by the Nepali government, which included disputed territories as Nepali land. Something similar occurs with Sri Lanka, two countries with strong historical ties that have had disputes in the past, and where tensions continue to arise today. To make matters more complicated, China's influence in these countries is growing. In comparison, India's relations with its other neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Myanmar, and the Maldives are relatively good. As for Afghanistan, since the bearded ones, the Taliban, came to power, India has maintained a cautious approach, not recognizing the Taliban government but providing humanitarian aid. Aside from its ongoing tensions with Pakistan, India is not involved in any armed conflict. However, it is actively deployed in UN peacekeeping missions and has carried out humanitarian missions, such as in Nepal after the earthquake or in the Maldives. Regarding major global conflicts, India remains neutral on the Ukraine issue. It has abstained from voting in UN resolutions condemning Russia, as India has taken advantage of the opportunity to buy Russian gas and oil at bargain prices. Additionally, India imports many weapons and military equipment from Russia. India also needs to maintain good relations with the US and the Western Bloc. Although India was once a strong supporter of the Palestinian cause and has a significant Muslim population, its trade and security cooperation with Israel have improved in recent years. As we said earlier, India doesn't take strong sides, as it already has enough to deal with as a complex and diverse country without getting involved in others' problems. Northern India, where key states like Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab are located, spans the Himalayas and the Ganges Plains. This region relies heavily on wheat and rice farming, with Punjab being known as India's granary. Jammu and Kashmir have a high military presence due to their border conflicts with Pakistan and China. The region is also home to New Delhi, the financial and technological hub of the area. In the northeastern region, bordering Bhutan, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, there is incredible biodiversity and natural wealth, with reserves of oil, gas, and coal, especially in the state of Assam. This region is known for its tea and pepper cultivation but remains underdeveloped due to its mountainous terrain. In the east, we find the Ganges Plain and the Bay of Bengal, a region rich in the minerals previously mentioned and known for its fishing industry. Cities like Mumbai, which hosts the Bombay Stock Exchange and Bollywood, are located here, as well as Goa, famous for its beaches and nightlife. Rajasthan is a state with a thriving tourism industry, with Jaipur as its capital. Gujarat, another important state, is a leader in dairy production and also acts as a hub for oil processing. Finally, in the south of India, you can find a tropical area where agriculture, spice production, and rubber are very important. The southern region is also home to the commercial ports of Kerala, one of the most developed regions in India. Additionally, there's Bangalore, which is often referred to as India's Silicon Valley. In summary, India varies greatly depending on the region. However, poverty is visible everywhere. Generally, the more developed regions with better social indicators are in the south, while the north contains more rural areas. The north is also more culturally diverse due to the historical presence of Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus, and others. Looking at the east-west axis, the more developed areas are mostly in the west, except for Kolkata. These are just brief highlights, but you need to understand that India is much more than this. It is a vast country with regions that differ significantly in culture and religion. Many regions have their own languages, a high degree of self-governance, and are home to millions upon millions of people. In terms of the economy, India is one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. Its nominal GDP is the fifth largest globally, and the country is positioning itself as one of the leading manufacturing powers, similar to how China was a few years ago. Beyond this, India is also the world's service factory. Many Western companies outsource work to Indian workers or companies, handling tasks like software development or accounting. India is one of the largest producers of automobiles and motorcycles globally, with manufacturing plants for companies such as Tata Motors, Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, and Mahindra. India also leads in the production of textiles and is a major producer of generic medicines and pharmaceuticals, often referred to as the pharmacy of the developing world. As mentioned earlier, rice production is a major focus of its agriculture, alongside sugar, cotton, and spices. On top of this, coal is vital to its economy. Additionally, the Indian Space Research Organization is known for its successful missions, such as the Chandrayaan lunar mission and the Mars mission Mangalyaan. Today, India is a key player in global space exploration. Despite all of this, India's main economic challenge is its economic inequality and lack of infrastructure. Anyone who has traveled there will have noticed the poverty in which many people live. Moreover, corruption and bureaucratic inefficiency are widespread, and the lack of urban services makes living conditions extremely difficult. The social situation is so dire that in recent Indian history, there have been internal insurgent movements of Maoist origin, such as the Naxalite movement, fighting against social inequality and targeted by the state for decades. Indian politics is chaotic as well. The country is a federation of 28 states and 8 union territories, each with its own government and legislature. These states enjoy a lot of autonomy and are home to many regionalist parties that focus on local interests. Today, India calls itself the world's largest democracy, with a parliamentary system based on that of its former colonial rulers, the British. Currently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi governs the country with an ultranationalist, Hindu-focused, and highly personalistic agenda. This agenda has also increasingly marginalized the Muslim population, who face growing stigma due to the political tensions between India and Pakistan. To reiterate, the conflict between India and Pakistan remains one of the most serious issues in the world. In conclusion, India is a country full of economic opportunities but also significant challenges. Inequality, pollution, and resolving its conflicts with Pakistan are the country's main issues to address. This is the country of Bollywood, and that's all for today. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like, subscribe, and join us for more adventures.